Welcome, Disney Infinity fans, and thanks for joining me on this Toy Box build series of a Death Ray. Yeah, this was inspired by the scene in Star Wars Episode 4 when Alderaan was destroyed, basically vaporized by the Death Star. This is a build that you can use in many different storylines and develop a lot of games around it, but it's also, you know what, it's just fun to blow up a planet. I wanted to simulate the power needed to blow up a planet, so I designed this as a two-step process. First, you need to power up the weapon. Then, hack the terminal to actually fire it. The button just resets to simulate a level start that could be done using a trigger area or a level starter. It's connected to a logic gate that connects to a replayer so the planet appears and turns the marker above the hang bar on. It also deactivates the terminal. The marker gives a clue to the user that it needs to be pulled. The terminal cannot be used until the hang bar is pulled down, which starts the sound effects for the weapon power-up, which is connected to a repeater and it just plays that effect in a loop. Pulling down the hang bar also deactivates the marker, and now the terminal is activated. The properties on the terminal are set so that any player can hack it. Once the terminal is hacked, it sets off an initial power release, and then the beam fires at the planet. I used several sound and visual effects to create kind of a realistic destruction. It's a flare explosion, and it seems to pierce the outside of the planet, and then the energy builds up inside it until the planet just vaporizes. Okay, so let's take a look at how this thing is built and what I'm giving you to help you build it for yourself. Now down below there's going to be a link to a PDF file, and I'm going to show you exactly what's in that file right now. So let's start with the toys that I used. I give you the category that the toys are in, how many are needed, and what from each category is needed. So in the Creativity toys, you see you're going to need 3 logic gates. You're going to need 5 effect generators, 5 time delays, 5 locators. You're going to need a path creator, of course, the ability terminal, and an action button. And again, that action button is basically just temporary for development. That will be replaced with either a level starter or a trigger area when the player enters that. Then from the gameplay toys, we've got our hang bar, we've got sound effects, and decorations is a satellite dish. Now, you probably didn't see this. I used it in my development. You probably don't need it because it goes right where the start of the beam is, and you can't see it. I basically, when I first developed this, I developed it in a toy box, and I had it on top of the terrain and was kind of using that as a start point. So kind of left it in here, but it's probably something that you won't use. And then, of course, the Instafun is the sky changer, and that's just to change your sky to the Star Wars sky. Now, also in that document, you're going to see a screenshot of how the toys are laid out. And this is important because I gave you documentation of what needs to be connected to what. Now, if there's only one toy, for instance, there's one marker, there's one replayer, there's one repeater, well, you know exactly where it goes. But in the instance of the logic gates, the effect generators, the locators, and the time delays, well, you have multiple. So it's really important that you lay these toys out as I have them laid out here. If you do that, it'll be real easy to put this together. So I've got them all numbered, and in the directions you'll see, as we'll cover in a second, where the connections are made for all of the toys. I've also given you a logic flow chart. Now this is kind of tiny, but in the document it's actually really large. And again, this basically shows you the connections between all the toys. Then we're going to go into your step-by-step connections. And you'll see here that when I capitalize something, that is the particular toy. When it's initial cap, that's basically the condition. And then the greater than symbol indicates that you're moving on to the next point. So for instance, as we start with player input toys, we're talking about our button. So that is a toy. And then we're going to go to the new logic connection. Now everything starts with a new logic connection, so I didn't include that. I always started after the new logic connection. So the new logic connection is pressed, and then you're going to go to logic gate 2. This is why it's so important to place the toys in the position that's laid out in the screenshot. You can go right to logic gate 2, they're in order from left to right, and then that's going to be input. And in the document there's a sheet that shows you each toy and the connections made for that toy. It also lays out all of the properties. For instance, on locator 4, which is the locator that is connected to the path creator, you're going to want a speed of 200 and the movement style is one way and stop. And then on the path creator itself, you want to make sure that the active is on and the speed is 200 and that auto start objects when connected is off. Then it shows all of your delays and you have to go into the properties and change the delay. And then the speaker, you want to make sure that turn 3D is off. If it's turned on, then the sound is relative to where you are in position to the locator where the sound generates. If you turn this off, then it's global sound, and that's really what you want, is global sound. And then on the repeater, you want to set the rate to 2, and basically what that does, that's for that power generating force that you hear. It repeats, it just plays it over and over again until the weapon is fired. Your radar marker is going to be connected to locator 5. Locator 4 is the locator that is connected to the path creator. And the repeater output, again, it just repeats the sound effects, and that is that force field pulse. Now the effects generators are all connected to locators. And this basically just tells you to which locator each effects generator is connected. These are all the outputs for the time delayers to basically give instruction to what will happen when the delay is completed. So you'll see here the output and the delay is completed, and then it tells you which toy is connected and what it does for that toy. And this shows the path point, and there's a lot of connections to the output of the path point. And they're all basically when the point is reached by the object on the path, it triggers. It triggers time delayers, it triggers effects generators, and it triggers sounds. Okay, with the help of Boba Fett, we're going to go ahead and get started in the toy box. So this is the first part where we're going to just basically lay down all the toys that we need in the order that's in the diagram. We'll start with our logic gates. So you see that's logic gate 1, logic gate 2, and logic gate 3. And I'll just look for another toy here. And this is our radar marker. And we're going to need a replayer. And we need a repeater to put that down. Now I'm just basically following my own documentation. I actually created this whole toy box and then created my documentation. And to recreate it, I followed my documentation. I do that just to make sure that everything works. And we're going to put down the 5 effects generators. And we're going to need 5 time delayers. This also helps when you lay it out this way to have all of your toys together. It's a lot easier to make your connections. I generally like to do, whenever I can, my logic first, and then I create the theme or the toy box around my logic. And this is the sky changer, just so we can change the terrain in the sky. And let's see if we can find... Oh yeah, I ended up using this during development. I just went ahead and included it. Probably wouldn't use it again, and as you see as we start building, it's really unnecessary. It's not going to be seen anyway, that satellite dish. And this is the ability terminal that will need to be hacked to actually fire the weapon. And then before we can do that, we're going to also, let's just place this out of the way a little more to the diagram that we're using. And find the hang bar here and get that situated. And our button, again, this is just to aid in development and to use until you actually put this in the game of your choosing. And sound effects. And now we're going to need 5 locators. And again, from left to right, as in the documentation, this would be locator 1, locator 2, locator 3, locator 4, and locator 5. Now, as we look back, we look at our terrain with our toys and we look at the screenshot and the documentation, and I think that's just about it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to use blocks to actually aid us in positioning our death ray path and our planet. So we'll use these blocks as a reference guide, and once we've used them, obviously we'll delete them. We won't use them anymore. Now what I did was I'm going 15 blocks out away from the terrain, and then 5 blocks up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And our planet will go just above that block. So now I'm going to set the path. Originally, I put the path straight out. Didn't look as well as having it off to an angle. It's a better effect. So this is roughly about 2 blocks over is where I'll start the path. And then move it up and then over. So now the path is actually moving at a diagonal away from the terrain block. And you'll see that when we do our final placement of the terminal, it's just a better reference point to see the planet explode. And that's our point path. So remember, the green point on the path is the path creator, and all other yellow points on a path are path points. And of course, they didn't number them in this particular tutorial because there was only one path point. And you'll see here I'm positioning this satellite dish, and where it's positioned you don't see it. I just went ahead and put it in there. Well, that's a wrap for part 1 of this tutorial series. Stay tuned for our next episode as we'll continue with the Death Ray. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a like. It really will help in building the community for this great game. Oh, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified as soon as I post new videos. Well, that's it for now. See you next time, and have a magical day.